So YouTube is up. Should be. That'll be there shortly. And LinkedIn is up. Oh, snap. Yep. All right, good. And here we are. There it is. Cool. So let's share this over to my page, and then we will get started. Okay. Sweet. How's everybody doing? How are you doing? Good? Good. Good, good, good. All right, so this week I'm here. I'm standing up this time. I got the standing desk going. I've had the standing desk. I just haven't used it in a bit, and I feel like it's time to get her down here. I don't know. I feel like standing up today. And I like the background behind me standing up. You kind of see the shelf a little bit better and all that, so that's cool. Yeah, so we made it through another week. This week was a cool week. Worked on some cool projects and bidding on a few stuff for like all sorts of campaigns. We're doing integrated marketing stuff, so we got to do a bunch of creative that connects like website to social to text to email. That's kind of cool. We're also working on what else are we doing? A lot of email marketing, some event marketing, continuing the process with a few websites, and doing a lot of project management stuff. So very, very busy week, but we got a lot of stuff done this week. In the world of marketing, for you to care about, not that you care about what I'm doing, but in the world of marketing, we have some cool articles. I was actually excited. These ones came through early in the week, and I read through them, and I really liked them. So throughout the rest of the week, nothing really measured up. So I kept searching to see if there would be anything better, and there just wasn't. So these are the top three. Last week, I dissected 3 articles, and it worked out better, I think, as opposed to doing like 6 or 5 of them. So this week, I'm going to continue with that trend and just kind of diving deeper into fewer articles and trying to discuss and dissect the topics associated with those instead of like jumping through them really quick. I think after 2 articles last week, we were already at 30 minutes on the live stream. So I'm going to try to get through all of them in about that time frame or shortly more today. But knowing me, I kind of go through and stuff and I elaborate and get caught up on tangents. So we'll see how we do on time this week. So, and the most important part of the week, we've got our beer of choice. So today, let's see if I can get rid of this thing for you. There it is. Today I've got a cider, actually. It's the, what the heck is this? Hard-pressed, hard cider, hot cinnamon. So I bought this by accident. I was trying to pick up some cider, and I saw hard-pressed, and I did a little scan from Untapped on the logo, or on the logo, on the UPC code, and it came up really well. It's got like a 3.6 or something like that, or a 3.8 on Untapped, which is generally pretty good on Untapped. So I picked up the cider, and then I brought it home, and then I realized that it's actually hot cinnamon cider. And I was really upset because I just wanted normal cider. And usually when you get these like hot cinnamon ones or flavored things, they kind of suck. But this one I would buy again for sure. It's like a cinnamon. It's not really like a hot cinnamon, like a red hot or something like that. It's more of just like an apple cinnamon kind of apple cider deal. So, cheers to you guys and gals. We're doing the cider this week, and we're talking about some fun stuff. So let's get into the exciting things. Article number 1, how to make triggered emails more effective. So this one is exciting for me because I do a lot of email marketing. And Practical E-commerce puts out good articles. So not only is this a topic that I know a lot about and can speak on for a bit, and I do a lot of this stuff, but it's also some pretty solid advice as far as internet advice goes. So what we're talking about here with triggered emails are things like welcome series, recovery attempts, like abandoned cart emails, even your purchase confirmation. Those are triggered emails through your e-commerce store. And you don't necessarily have to have triggered emails associated with e-commerce in particular. You can have them associated with like email opt-ins, or if you're doing some type of like lead bait or lead capture content on your site, somebody opts into that, you can set up a triggered email or a triggered email series to go out in response to that initial trigger of an opt-in. And before I get to the points here on this like article about like what the tips are to make triggered emails more effective, I just want to make a quick case on emails, on email marketing and triggered automations in general, because I think this stuff is kind of, for me, I've been doing it for a while, so it's really second nature to me that this is just natural, that you should be doing this stuff. But I talk to businesses every single week that, come to me for advice on SEO or, PPC marketing, pay-per-click, and that sort of stuff. And when we look at their website and their overall kind of follow-up strategy, it's completely, many times they're missing the follow-up stuff, the emails and the automations that really make PPC and SEO and that sort of thing worth it. So this is a freebie for you. I'm just going to kind of explain why email marketing and why these triggered emails are so important to the overall process here. So this is a web kind of a mind map I made. I make something similar all the time for clients when I'm trying to walk them through this stuff. And I think it's useful. If you're a fan of these type of maps, or if you're a marketer and you want to use this type of thing, it's draw.io that I'm using. And it's actually provided through, you can get it like an app setup, an extension through your Google Drive suite. So your Google product suite can include this. It's free and it's super useful. So let's just kind of work through the flow. And as we work through it, I'll explain this stuff. So on the left, we have a few traffic sources: SEO, AdWords, PPC, and then other. Other I would classify as like Facebook advertising, or maybe like referral, affiliate type stuff. And the percentages over there are just really general percentages. And what I'm talking about is not necessarily the volume of traffic, but more of the conversions that come from that traffic. So if we think SEO and organic placement on a website, 70% in that range. Of course, it's not specific. Maybe it's 75, maybe it's 80, maybe it's even more for certain businesses, or less. But around that number is going to be, the amount of transactions or conversions that you're going to get through organic listing. A massive majority of them are going to come from your organics. PPC is going to make up another solid chunk, and your other referrals and affiliates and that type of stuff is going to make up a sizable chunk too. But that traffic is coming in through your website. Your website kind of serves as a hub for that traffic to come through, and then certain things can happen on the site. The best, the best case scenario is people come to your site and then they complete the purchase transaction right away. They request a quote, they buy something, they do whatever you want them to do on the site immediately. That's the best case scenario. And if you have a really optimized site, maybe that's working really well for you. But I promise you, there are people that come to your site that are not ready to buy right now, that will maybe come back later, that you're not, if you don't have any other systems in place, you're not speaking to those people. These are the people. This is especially relevant for businesses that have kind of a long buying cycle. So people aren't making an instant decision to buy from you, right? They're maybe your product is an expensive one, or requires customization, or is one of those products that people think about for a long time. Maybe it's a piece of furniture that's going to go in their house or something like that. So people are actually going through a search process and a decision-making process before they buy from you. And a lot of that can happen exterior, like through Yelp or through Google searches and Amazon reviews and that sort of stuff. But if you're clever and you structure your content properly on your website, you can actually speak to those people during their decision-making process. And that's what email triggers are all about. So let me explain a couple of really simple versions of this. So let's say somebody comes to your website, they're not going to buy right away. So they don't go this route up top to requesting a quote or buying or something. Instead, you promote a kind of lead bait offer. Maybe it's a buyer's guide, maybe it's some type of like downloadable or a how-to or industry insight or something like that. And they download this PDF. Now, what can happen if they download this PDF? First, that's a piece of content that you're distributing to the consumer and you're building your brand equity with them. So that's good, right? But secondly, a couple things can happen. You can enroll them in your newsletter so that you can send out bi-monthly emails or weekly emails or multiple emails throughout the week, depending on how much content you have in your product type. But you can also set up a drip series. So, this is just an example, but a 4-part email campaign that goes like that a new email is sent like every day or every other day or once a week or something like that over the course of a couple weeks or a month. That's like what we refer to as a welcome series, right? Or one version of a welcome series or a drip campaign. Now, with that type of campaign, you've got their email address, right? Because they opted into the buyer's guide or the PDF or whatever it is you're offering them. Then over the course of the next weeks or a month, you're popping into their email inbox with more content, more stuff about your value propositions, about your business, about whatever. So that kind of inserts your brand into their mind while they're making this decision, right? So that's one example of how this like email drip system can get you in the conversation that the potential buyer's having without them initially buying, right? Other examples of this are email newsletters. That's like the basic one. You can set up an email newsletter, and then once they sign up, that triggers bi-monthly email send. That's part of your newsletter. It triggers the 4-part series. Maybe it triggers another automated email that's not on this map, but something else. The same thing can kind of happen for opt-ins and discounts. So if somebody comes to your site and you say, hey, here's 10% off or 5% off or a freebie with the purchase of an item. All you have to do is give your email. Well, they give you your email. Then that same trigger can initiate an enrollment into the email newsletter and that same 4-part series or a different series if you're so inclined, right? And that's kind of like now what we've done here. So here's the significance is, we've immediately we've tripled, quadrupled actually, the number of like communication channels that were happening to the customer. If you didn't have this stuff in place, you're only marketing to that one segment of people that's ready to buy right now. But now all these other people that are at different commitment levels to your brand are getting spoken to. The people that opt into the buyer's guide are probably lower down the buying cycle and they're more committed to your brand. The people that just want email, they're a little bit committed, but not as quite as downloading the buyer's guide. And the discount people, they're like, probably the most, abstract of them. They're going to make a decision based on a discount. They're price shopping you. They're not super committed quite yet. But those 3 segments are all now being touched because you have an email trigger system. Okay, so that's why this stuff is important. And with that said, let's move back to the article and think about some ways to make those triggered emails more effective. That's why I like this article. But before then, let's take a sip of beer. This is good. It's sweet. I don't know if it got warm. It might not be as good, but it's kind of cold right now and reminds me of fall. The apple cinnamon. But anyways, all right. So let's get into this. A couple of stats that I think are kind of cool. Highest open rates for emails. These triggered emails come from price drop alerts and browse abandonment. Back in stock alerts are 3rd. Cart abandonment is 4th. Welcome series is 5th. So kind of interesting that these type of emails are getting better open rates. The click-through rates kind of flip-flop a few of these. So on price drop alerts, those are getting more clicks inside of the email, right? Which is probably natural to think like that. That if you send out an email that's based on your prices on your website, which that's one we didn't even talk about in the map. But if you have a website and all of a sudden you change your price, that can automatically trigger an email to everybody that's bought from you that said, hey, or even your email newsletter, hey, prices dropped. Come check it out. So click-through rates are pretty high on that. So naturally, that probably results in conversions more so too. Clicks lead to conversions down the line. Some other cool stats. Let's take a look at these. The highest conversion rate. Okay, so they did have some data on conversions. Let's see what is actually converting because clicks are great. Oh, there we go. I guess we moved to this. Clicks are great, but conversions are ultimately the goal. So replenishment emails had the best conversions, which that makes sense. So if you have people that have bought a particular product and maybe that product's been out of stock, or certain varieties of it are out of stock, like colors or sizes or whatever, an email saying, hey, this stuff's back in stock, probably results in some good conversions. Cart abandonment is another high converting, 20%. So cart abandoned emails are pretty cool. And this used to be kind of hard to do with email marketing. It was like you had to have somebody who really understood how like email APIs worked and to set that up with your website and make these triggers happen. Now it's way easier. Like Shopify, they have an abandoned cart sequence thing set up by default. MailChimp integrates with a lot of e-commerce platforms. They have an abandoned cart thing that's really easy, and they already have pre-designed templates for you. So doing an abandoned cart email is like super easy. And the conversion rates are pretty good. The one that makes me a little bit sad is the welcome series, because I think those are so important for new customers and for people that have entered into your newsletter somehow. But it's still positive that there's 10% conversion rates on those. You know, if you think conversion rates from PPC ads, if you're getting like 5% conversions, that's really good, you know, in advertising land. So compare that to an email that's getting 10% conversions. That's double some of the best conversions you're going to get with PPC. So you just, even though it says that 10% is low, it looks low compared to the other numbers, it's still pretty darn good. So how can we make these emails better? How can we, you know, get them to be, you know, more opened and more clicked and better conversions? They say first use pre-headers. So this one's cool. This is your little pre-header right here. This thank you for your order. Please review details. That's like standard, you know, absolutely good piece of advice. Certain email newsletter providers and email systems make that easy for you to write in that pre-header. Other ones make it hard. So the way that email like platforms work is they're going to read the first part of the text. They're going to read like who it's from, you know, the subject line, and then whatever comes next in the coding of that email, whatever text is next is going to be read and displayed here on this. I'm pointing at the screen like you can see me pointing. I'll use my mouse. That's going to be displayed here, whatever's first. So if your email provider doesn't have a section for you to load in pre-headers, consider this first part of the text is what's going to show there. So just knowing that and designing that pre-header with some like other like elaborated kind of sexy language is good. Product notifications. Yep, stats work for that. So we flip back up here to the stats. Price drop alerts, replenishment. You know, those are product notifications. So if you can set those up, that's going to get you better open rates, and it's working for conversions according to their data. Review content and links. This one's important. So if you set up an automation, let's say you set up a 4-part welcome series, and that content really isn't going to change a lot. It's the same value propositions that you're always going to be saying, and you maybe update it once every 6 months or once a year or something like that, which is totally natural. If you set that up and want it to run, that's kind of the objective of the automation, is that you could set it and forget it, okay? The issue with not looking at it frequently is that certain things change on the internet. You know, an image that's kind of linked into there may, you know, that URL may not be valid. Maybe somebody deleted that image off your website and it's no longer there. And so the email's trying to ping a URL that just doesn't exist, and then the image doesn't come through. And all that work that you put into that welcome series of the beautiful image is squashed because you don't have an image in there. You look unprofessional. So that's just one example, right? So it's good to go through your content and make sure that everything's working. Click on everything, make sure that it's all kind of functioning properly. You know, I'll tell you a story. I had an email that was supposed to go out to like an email list with like 20,000 people on it, right? And I built the email inside the email builder. I built it inside the builder, real descriptive there, but I built it inside the email builder, and all my tests were fine on my end. I was clicking the links and all this stuff. Everything looked okay. The problem was that I was using like back-end editor links on one of the main call to actions, like buy this, like a serious one. And I send out this email, and you know, none of the buy now, or one of the buy now links isn't working because It was actually a link into the editor version of the e-commerce site, not the actual live version. So I had to send another email with a new link, and then that just looks bad, and conversions weren't nearly as good as they should have been. And it was all just because I was moving too fast and not checking the links. So that stuff can happen, in automations and not. It's just important to have that stuff be tested, or send it to somebody to have them test it, or whatnot. It's good, right? I'm not a details guy. I'm like, I don't pay attention to details that much, and I'm more of like a 20,000 foot guy. So this kind of stuff, I have to push myself to get those things done, and I have team members that help me with that stuff, and they kind of monitor the details so that we don't screw things up, right? So if you're not like that, then put someone on your team that is. Okay. Other tips here from Practical E-commerce. They've been good. So what else you got? PE. Encourage orders. So they're saying an obvious way to click to the site. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Make sure you have a home or a shop button inside of the emails. Company logos and links to the homepage. Yeah, this one's like you would think it's a no-brainer, but it happens all the time. People put their logo in the email, but they don't link it to the homepage of the site. So many people are going to click on that and go, oh, it's not going there. How do I get to the homepage? So it's just a missed opportunity. Login link, cool. Special offers and deals on future purchases. So, one thing you can do is if you send out a content email, let's say, for example, you just want to tell people about the wonders of, cucumbers or apples or a workout routine. If you want to have that piece of content, that's great. But at the bottom, why not offer a special deal on a product related to that? Or better yet, and I really like to do this one, is if you have another company that is in a similar kind of industry as you, maybe they're a colleague, they're selling things that are kind of similar. Like for example, if you're an event company and you have a colleague that sells event apparel, okay, this would be an example of two things that aren't combating with each other, but they're selling to the same audiences. What you can do is do a little bit of collaboration in the email list, right? If you've got an email list of 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 people, and your colleague maybe doesn't have that, or they have a different email list, why not tag on, a special offer to the ends of each other's emails? Maybe they have a content piece that goes out, a weekly newsletter. Get involved with that newsletter for, a month, where at the bottom of that newsletter, you're offering a 10% discount to everybody that's a part of that apparel company or whatever, right? That's a way to kind of cross-brand stuff. Maybe you could even monetize that. If you got a large enough list, you could sell that space. I've certainly paid for that type of placement if it's a good email list. But yeah. So solid advice from Practical E-commerce. It looks like I missed one. I remember this one. So check deliverability. This one's a little bit harder to tell. What they're talking about here is how often your email is hitting an actual inbox without going to spam or being completely deleted along the way. So if your email's not going, if it's not being delivered, or you have a low deliverability score, that's like massive hindrance to your email campaigns and to your future campaigns too. Because if you have a low deliverability score, your server that's sending out the emails is going to get marked. And the more times that low deliverability score gets marked, the lower the deliverability happens, right? You get delivered less, especially if people are marking you as spam. So if they're marking you as spam, you're going to get like marked down to deliverability. And if it continues to happen at a large enough scale, they'll blacklist your IP, and then you really won't have anything to do. It's near impossible to get off a blacklist if your IP makes it there. So the way to get off a blacklist is to avoid getting there in the first place. The way you do that, there's like a whole other series we could come out on ways to not have spammy email. But if you're worried about your open rates, your click-through rates, you may want to take a look at some deliverability checkers out there. Google has a nice one. Just Google deliverability checker, and they'll run like they'll give you like a set of emails that you can load into your email system, run an email, and then it'll measure your deliverability. So you can kind of see where you're ending up and where you're not. You can look at certain inboxes and see where you're coming through. Like Gmail has a pretty intense spam filter. Yahoo used to be the absolute worst. It was so hard to get into Yahoo inboxes. But that really hasn't changed. But what's really changed about it is that not many people are using Yahoo as much. But anyways, the point is to maybe check your deliverability, and then if you're seeing an issue there, contact somebody that can help you, navigate that process, maybe change email providers or whatnot. Really, I would consult an expert at that point and try to see what the path is forward for fixing that. But yeah, so that's it from Practical E-commerce. Good stuff. I'll link the article in the video post. I know on LinkedIn I don't do it because it kind of messes the link up. So if you just go to the YouTube video, they're all in there. But anyways, yum. It's pretty good. Okay. Next up, we're going way into the future, and we're talking about augmented reality. Psych, it's not really the future. It's happening right now. That's what this article is all about. It's about ways that retail, kind of brick and mortar stores are using augmented reality. And apparently, according to Forbes, it's a revolution, right? So let's take a look at a couple things here. I don't want to read this article verbatim, but I do want to point out some of the stuff that is important here. So what has happened is Forbes is citing a research study. I'm scrolling up and down, giving you a headache, I'm sure. But Forbes is citing a research study that was done by Digital Bridge. And they've got all these stats about, what customers want to see when it comes to augmented reality. And they say things like, according to research, 41% of customers already expect to be offered AR in with retailers, but only 21% of small businesses actually conducted AR meetings in 2018. So they're saying you better get on it because you're missing out on a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to preface this with a little bit of critique on the data here, because I think that this is a little bit misrepresenting what's going on. They're citing an article or a research study done by Digital Bridge. Okay, and Digital Bridge is actually in Britain, so this is UK, right? So it's not super different. Retail environments in either the UK and the United States are not crazy different from at least this type of perspective. But the issue here isn't that it's two different countries, although that could certainly skew the data somewhat. The issue is that Digital Bridge is an AR company, right? They're like about AR. So every bit of stats throughout this entire report is immediately, you have to take that into consideration that this is an AR company promoting this stuff. So of course it's supposed to look good for AR because they want more companies to do that. Now, is everything they're saying wrong? Absolutely not. I think they're making some really great points, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. But when you read an article like this, click on a couple of these things, these links where they're linking to the data, and just look at it and kind of, curve your mindset a little bit, right? Do a little critical thinking and make sure you're not like jumping on a hype train that you shouldn't be jumping on. It's one thing to jump on a hype train like on Twitter with memes and whatever, because it's kind of a little bit harmless, but when it comes to a business, you jump on a hype train, all of a sudden you spend money and effort and resources and labor hours going on a hype train. That's not good, right? So that's why I preface this with this, is it's curve it a little bit, but at the same time understand that this is actually some really interesting stuff about AR and how that's going to impact the retail brick and mortar spot. So what this article is about is they're saying there's 4 ways that you can revolutionize brick and mortar retail with augmented reality. So let's take a look at those 4 ways. Way number 1, try before you buy. Since the core of AR technology is integrating digital information with the user's environment, retailers can address the pain points of shopping head on and enable virtual try-ons. Okay, so the idea is that you set up some type of like kiosk or some kind of application to the phone where somebody can like try on the stuff digitally before they buy it. So that's kind of interesting, right? And I think you're going to see more of the big box retailers doing this stuff, maybe like out in front of their display cases. On the street, you can walk by and like try whatever it is on display on. That'd be kind of cool. But that's kind of the idea, right? Is that you can try it before you buy it. Another example that they're giving is personal experience. And the part I actually wanted to read off in this section was about Kate Spade. So I'll just read it and then I'll discuss it. Kate Spade New York has continued to stay out in front of retail innovation by partnering with Perch to create its Make It Mine line of personalized handbags. When a customer picks up a handbag, the AR display immediately detects which bag they have chosen and have it appear on an interactive touchscreen. Customers are then able to explore thousands of straps, colors, and patterns to create their own unique handbag. The display has seen great success since its launch in 2018, averaging over 100 daily customers and 800 plus daily interactions. So really cool idea, right? Like somebody's able to pick up a bag in store and look at it and customize it right there so they can see what it looks like with the customizations. Another example of something similar to this is Xbox. It's not quite AR in that area, but you can like design your own Xbox controller using like a platform through the actual Xbox while you're sitting at home, which is kind of cool. It's kind of similar, right? You can design every aspect of it. Same thing with the bag. So we're doing a guy and a girl example here. We got Kate Spade bags for the girls and Xbox for the guys. But I really like the idea. Okay, the issue with both of these last two examples I have is that type of AR just it's not there yet for like the smaller businesses. Kate Spade, this is like a multi-million-dollar company that can afford to build a kiosk and in stores and all the tech behind that and connecting the AR and like the body face recognition software and all that stuff. So it's like, all right, it's not quite there yet. And this whole like try it on thing, that's a really cool idea, but how does like the corner beauty shop, the corner boutique clothing company take advantage of that? It's not quite there yet, but here's the thing is that it's coming. Okay. And let me explain this. Because this is where they kind of talk about AR for the masses down here is Facebook Spark in Apple's AR kit. So here's how this is actually going to change things relatively soon. This whole idea of having like an AR kiosk or something like that in your store, not far out. Okay. Spark AR is powered by the Facebook. This is like a Facebook thing. Okay. Facebook Development Center. And the whole premise behind this is that you do not have to necessarily code to be able to build an AR system, right? So that's the huge part, because previously, or at least in the last year or so, you would need to know somebody that understood how to code and integrate APIs, like not just code, not like HTML, like coding on a website. We're talking like programming language that APIs into some other system that allows like facial recognition. Maybe it is the Facebook thing or whatever. But that's like a high level like programming thing that somebody would have to know, and then you'd have to contract that somebody, and then like we're talking like a pretty intense project, okay? But not anymore, or at least not in the near future. AR is changing, and the accessibility to it is changing too. So you can actually get on Spark AR and build an AI thing of your own, right? Like this is kind of the example I saw down here, that you can take a file, load it into the system, and then publish it. So I'm sure there's maybe some geotags and things like that you can do, which can allow you to display your products, via like some type of augmented reality system. Same kind of thing is going on with Apple. So they've got like an AR kit that allows developers to build AR systems within Apple's infrastructure. Okay, I don't think this one can be done without like coding, but they already have like sample code set up. So, somebody who has a reasonable amount of programming knowledge, a freelancer on Upwork or something like that, may be able to manipulate some of this stuff and come up with something cool. But even this stuff, even Spark and even ARKit, I think are still going to be like not used by small businesses. I don't think small businesses really like understand like exactly how to use these technologies, or at least they don't have the time to do it. Here's the other part about it is I think that the real creatives for this stuff are going to come from people like myself, marketers, right? And the part I'm most excited about here is that there's going to be marketing firms, mark my words, I'm telling you, there's going to be marketing firms that are going to pop up that are all about this AR stuff. There's going to be firms that will literally build you apps on Alexa. They will build you AR apps. They will do all kinds of really cool things using the infrastructure that's built by Facebook and Apple and stuff like that. So me and like my colleagues and us in this kind of like independent world are going to start using this stuff and coming up with some really cool ways for small businesses to get involved. And that's where it's going to happen for small business, I think. I think there's going to be like a group of marketers that are going to figure out how to do this and replicate it and find out what's actually meaningful for businesses. Because that's like the whole other thing in this AR thing is, sure, maybe you can make a game like what you're seeing on the screen, but like, is that actually meaning anything to your business? So you're going to dump thousands of dollars into developing this AR thing, but is that actually helping you? That's a good question. So who answers that question? Good marketers. People like myself and my colleagues are going to be the ones to answer that question. And once we're able to really start answering that question, then we're going to be able to help businesses at mass. Other cool examples of where AR is going to start to take hold is I really like these like shopping map apps. I did a little bit of research and they're kind of neat. And I think this has a lot of potential for all sorts of retailers. And I'm going to take a sip here because my throat's getting, thirsty. But here's where I see the potential in this. Like, first and foremost, I'm the dude that when I go to the store and I can't find something, it like pisses me off. I'm like, where is it? It's not in the section that I thought it was going to be in. Now I'm like walking around trying to find it out, looking like a jackass with, like not understanding where things are. And like, I don't want to be in the store any longer than I have to. So I wish every time I'm in the store, I'm like, I wish I had an app that just I could type in what I want and it would tell me right where it is. Voila, Shops is that app, right? And they've apparently got a lot of coverage and all sorts of shops everywhere. This is AR. So it's not necessarily, AR doesn't necessarily mean like some type of like floating image inside of a phone. AR can be like an assisted technology just like this, right? And it can be a map. I love maps, right? So this is cool. Now, where I see some more potential happening with this is if I were a retailer and I had like a store that had sections in it or a mall that had sections in it, then I would like to sell promotional advertising to, either the stores in my mall or, promote stuff inside of my own store as well on this app. So imagine you're looking at this app and you're like flipping through stuff and you're kind of planning out your shopping trip from home. How come this, learning and education section, if there was a promotion going on in that section, you could say BOGO available here, or 30% discount or new items restocked now, and like that whole thing can happen inside of this map environment. And that would be cool to me. So as a marketer, I'd love to get involved with that space and see what was really possible there. I'd love to sell that space too. Like imagine being the mall owner and you got this app that everyone's downloaded. You're going to put up ads inside your mall and people are going to be downloading this app. And over the next 6 months, you get all these users that are on it and they're using the map inside of your mall. Then you can maybe like monetize some of that stuff, hit up the store and say, hey, we'll run a promo for you on the map where, you can advertise your BOGO, for a week or whatever inside the app. Or, don't even sell the space, just offer it as a value add to someone leasing from you in the space. See, there's so many cool applications to this stuff, and we're just starting to get going with it. What else do we have here as an example? Here's another one. Here's another example. A grocery, this is like a food allergy app that you can take with you to the store. And what it'll do is it'll kind of like perform an analysis of what's on the shelf and tell you what has like something in it that you're allergic to. So if you got like a nut allergy or like something else, you can look at a shelf and it'll be like, here you go, don't eat these. Stay clear of these ones. See, that's cool. And that type of augmented reality is going to start becoming more and more prevalent. And it's going to be up to the retailers and the brick and mortar stores to jump on this train. Here's like another, I'm going to go down one more tangent on this because I just think it's so cool. This is an opportunity for brick and mortar retailers to battle with like the mega e-commerce dudes like Amazon and Wayfair and Walmart and all these, okay? If you can build a really cool shopping experience inside of your store and you can use AR to supplement that, then you can actually kind of battle on the front of differentiation and product experience, buying experience that Amazon can't do. Like it's going to be difficult for Amazon to build like a try it on thing right into their system. I'm sure they could probably do it, but they're really good at all this other stuff, and I haven't seen anything come out about that. maybe if somebody's watching Amazon or watching this video and they work for Amazon, they're going to be like, we got to get on it. I don't know. I don't think I have that kind of influence. But my point is that, there's a battleground going on in this kind of AR brick and mortar space that, these kind of smaller companies can win some ground against some of the big box retailers by making a really cool buying experience. Because that's what it is. Like if you read any articles about how to beat Amazon, it's all about buying experience. What are you doing to make your experience unique and enjoyable for your buyers? And if you can figure out how to do that, great. If you can incorporate AR, you're kind of getting into the future of things. So cool stuff. All right. So now we're going to come back to the present. We were just in the future here. And let's talk about one last topic. And then we'll be done for the day. And we can go drink more beer. Okay. So I had something highlighted here. Let's re-highlight this because I'm going to come back to it. Here we go. So influencer marketing. What is going on in the world of influencer marketing? Seems like every week we're talking to some degree about influencer marketing, and this week is no different. And so let's dive into a couple things here and really kind of look at this. And every time I read an influencer marketing article, I've always caught 50-50 on it, because on one hand, I'm for influencer marketing. On the other hand, I see a lot of problems with it, especially for small business owners that don't have the tools and resources to really understand how that stuff works. Although I think that, probably the big guys that actually not the big guys, the big guys that can afford a real A-class celebrity to do something, they're probably getting a lot more value out of that celebrity or high-grade influencer than the real medium, businesses that are getting these mid-grade influencers and stuff. And it really boils down to the same thing that this article is talking about, that it's hard to measure how good an influencer's audience is. And that's the problem, is that you're going to pay an influencer thousands of dollars to post something or do a video or something, and it may or may not work. And there's no real clear way to track it, and it's kind of difficult. So you can end up wasting a lot of money. And that's what this article is about. So the preface of the article is that Hulu did this campaign, which was kind of funny, where they say they hired these NBA guys to come in and do these Hulu sellout ads. And they're clearly saying, this is a paid ad. We're 100% getting paid to do this, and we're embracing that kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, right? Which I think is kind of clever. People see right through it. If they see a celebrity advertising something, they know that this guy's getting paid. Hulu is saying, yeah, we're getting paid. The interesting part, yeah, we're paying these guys. Sorry. So Hulu is saying, yeah, we're paying these guys. The interesting part is how they're kind of approaching this issue with regulation. And that's part of the influencer thing, is that it's getting more and more regulated. And they're approaching this, here. So let me explain. So the influencer marketing world has kind of been a wild west when it comes to promotion. You could just go pay, you could DM an Instagram influencer with 30,000 followers to post something for you, or 100,000 or 300,000 followers to post something for you. But if technically it's illegal according to the, FCC, that it's illegal if you don't say that this is an ad. Okay, so the influencer has to say it, or it has to be mentioned in the comments, or it has to be very clear that this is some type of promotion. That's kind of how the rules play out for celebrity or influencer endorsements. Now, Hulu is just completely bulldozing that and saying, this is clearly a celebrity endorsement, which is a clever way of making sure that they don't get, in trouble for that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's what they're talking about. That's what I highlighted. See, I highlighted it for a reason. I'm losing my train of thought here, but the FCC, or the FTC, not the FCC, the FTC, they're getting around that kind of that regulation there. The other thing that I think who wrote this article? Let's take a look here. Eric Sherman, he hits us on the head. I think it's pretty smart. He says that there's kind of this postmodernist statement that's being made, by Hulu, saying that, look, you guys know that it's an advertisement. We know that you know, so we're going to say that. We are going to say that we know that you know. And we're going to kind of, I think it's cool because you're kind of recognizing that your consumer is smart, And they're not an idiot, and they're going to realize that this is clearly an endorsement. And that kind of is where I'm going to launch off into the discussion about other stuff with this. I don't want to spend time reading through the entire article here, although it is pretty good. I'll leave the link into it, but when it comes to influencer marketing, I see this in like the like fitness industry, where there's like fitness equipment, protein shakes, workout regimens, like all this type of stuff that's getting like sponsored, or those products are sponsoring fitness influencers. And these fitness influencers some of them are very, very good. They've got like great content. They're doing cool stuff, and they have a very positive vibe. But, when you start searching around and you're trying to evaluate these different influencers, a lot of them don't have a really solid following. Okay, they're kind of like hot guys or hot girls that have like a ton of following that aren't necessarily, that following isn't necessarily in the market for protein powder or whatever. Okay. The problem there, as a marketer, as a business that's going to pay that influencer, is that it's difficult to measure that thing, right? Like, how engaged is that audience? And that's kind of the hindrance with the whole industry. And this is where I go 50-50 on it, because it's like, well, you got all these people that are supposed influencers that are taking this money and charging people thousands of dollars for a post, but there's no real way to measure that effectiveness or how good that audience is. And it's just going wasted, and that person, the real winner there is the influencer, because they're, getting paid to, do whatever it is they're doing, but that's going to hurt the whole influencer industry as a whole, because if businesses continue to pay money without seeing results, they're just going to stop doing it. You're going to see more of these articles like this one that are saying you're going to waste your money. Maybe you should second think influencer marketing. Now, that's like the negative side of this. The other half of this is that it can really work. If you can discover an influencer that has a decent following, and you can measure that engagement of that following yourself, or you have your team in measuring it, and you can determine that it's a good mix, that their customers are in line with your target markets and this sort of thing, then the value of using that influencer to promote your product is like grade A. Like, you're going to get great, results from that. I have multiple campaigns where somebody posts on YouTube or whatnot, and we see instant conversions coming through the site because it's a good influencer with a good audience. The issue is trying to determine whether or not that influencer is good or not. So this is another little tip for you. I've been using this service for a while, and by no means am I getting paid for them. I'm not an influencer for this company. But I think this one's pretty cool. It's called Hype Auditor. This is one of the companies that's kind of come up in recent times, and that allows you to come in here and put in someone's Instagram username and measure a few really cool stats on them. So you can see how many followers they have, how many of those followers are actually authentic, the demographics of those followers, like age and gender and location and this sort of thing. You can see an engagement score. And that's really one of the key factors you want to look at, is how good is their engagement score. So that's all stuff that's available through the Hype Auditor. Now, Hype Auditor isn't perfect. Okay, it's hard to really measure the effectiveness of engagement. Is that engagement good or bad? Because what happens, especially on Instagram, is there's all these fake Instagram accounts that are just kind of hired to go through and make comments on pages, and they look semi-real. Okay, and actually, this original link article by Eric Sherman, he refers to another article about this study that was done, or not really a study, but like an experiment where this lady, Lena Katz, created an account for a potato, like an uncooked potato, and started doing some different things with it, and all of a sudden it had 10,000 followers, and she was getting comments on that stuff. She was getting engagements. Look at this video. It's got 11,000 views, and it's just a potato, but the point that was made, look, 454 likes. The point that was made was that the engagement on this particular account is meaningless. Look at these comments, super cool. You look good. This one right here, is definitely a fake comment, 100%, because it's just so generic that like it can apply to like anybody posting on Instagram. So these type of things, these type of like fake accounts are very, very prevalent. So let me bring this back full circle to the whole like hype auditor evaluating an Instagram follower thing or an Instagram influencer, is that a business that doesn't know how to spot those things is going to look at like a potato account and go, man, they got 11,000 views, they got 10,000 followers. You know, it's pretty decent. Like I'll pay them a few, some money to post some things, and it's going to go completely in the trash. You're literally taking that money and you should just dump it in the trash because this particular account has nothing of value. All right. Now, there's probably not a whole lot of these fake potato accounts out there, but there are certainly plenty of like influencers that don't really have the following they think they do, even if they claim to have all this stuff running through the check, because you may find out that a lot of their following is not engaging at all. It's not even looking at their stuff, and they were going to maybe charge you based on a follower of 20,000, but you're able to determine their real engaged audience is only 10,000. Well, now you have some negotiating power. You can say, well, really, you're only getting like 10,000 people that are engaging with your posts. So why am I going to pay you for the 20,000 engaged or 20,000 followers when really only 10,000 is there? And by the way, that 10,000 is made up of like 70% males. Our target market is females. So really, you're only talking about 3,000 that are actually meaningful to me. See, like that's the power of information, and it allows you to have some bargaining power in there. Hype Auditor is one of those tools that can allow you to arm yourself with a little bit of information. So, all right, so we kind of went full gamut here. We did email marketing, and then we did some augmented reality. We went to the future, and then we came back to talk about influencer marketing, and we kind of touched on the future there too. That there's some tools coming out now that are helping with that influencer evaluation. But yeah, I'm a bit out of breath, man. I went a little bit crazy. It's a standing up business, I guess, but. Yeah, so that's it. I appreciate you guys taking time to look at the video. This is all practice for me. I'm going to eventually do some really cool things with these videos. I want to get better and better at it. And, my goal here is to eventually have a podcast and to do like interviews in this type of format. I'd love to sit down and like talk with a small business owner about some of these like articles and these topics that are getting brought up every single week, and get their opinion on it, or another marketer or somebody else in a similar field, or like an influencer and that sort of thing. So that's the eventual goal here, is to provide some really rich content. But first, I've got to kind of work out the kinks and kind of suck for a while and figure it out and get better at it. So I appreciate, anybody who watches these videos and gives me the thumbs up and all that stuff. You guys are awesome, and you're part of the journey here. So, all right, that's enough of that. I'm going to go have another beer and, kick it on a Friday. Thanks. And adios. So, all right, that's enough of that. I'm going to go have another